Welcome back to Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Rozales III. He is from North St. Paul PD. He has 15 years experience in law enforcement. Really looking forward to our conversation. So welcome to the show, Chief Rozales III. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you
I
for
had,
having me. I'm honored.
of course, yeah, I had to make sure I threw in the third to be correct
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on here to talk about wellness. I was hoping that we could give a little background on you. I was laughing a little bit offline with you because when we had a conversation, you told me everything that you've accomplished throughout the last 15 years, and I felt like a slacker. So if you could maybe give some background to our listeners, I think that'd be great.
Oh, thank you, Paige. Those are kind words. Yeah, so I started with the city of North St. Paul roughly 2008, 2009 as a police reserve. So once I got into the reserve program, went to take my 2 year degree. And back then you got to understand too, I think about 1% of my class was graduating class was getting a, a police job. Then like one spot was open and 400 people were applying.
Yeah.
I remember when I applied for state patrol and it was 2,400 people applied for 40 spots. It was just a different time. So I got fortunate after I graduated because I had been a reserve here, which was a volunteer position at that time. After I graduated my 2 year degree, got hired as a police officer, and they hired 5 people at that time. There was 100 people that applied for this city. It's a small city, so not too big of an agency. But worked in patrol for a couple of years. Got asked to be a field training officer. Was a field training officer for a little bit. Got applied for the detective spot. So I became a detective. And when I became a detective, I also took on a couple other specialty roles. One of them was public information officer, traffic safety coordinator, um, some other instructor positions, and then got promoted to sergeant of patrol, sergeant of investigations. And I remember being in my sergeant of investigations position for a very short time, because our chief at that time had put in for his retirement, and they didn't have a plan to bring on another chief. Now it's a process, right? So it just doesn't happen. So I got approached and was asked to be the acting chief during that hiring process, which lasted several months. It was a really, really good feeling, and it was a taste for me of what it's like to be in that position. Shortly before becoming the acting chief, I had completed my master's degree with Concordia University in St. Paul in criminal justice leadership. And it was very current at that time. So the stuff that I had learned in college was very applicable to what I was about to go through as acting chief. Um, it was when I became the acting chief, we had right out of the gates, we had several critical incidents. So it was a little bit of everything that I had learned while coming up into that position. Investigations humbled me significantly. Being the public information officer, getting some public speaking in, and addressing the media and those kind of things just slipped into the role of acting chief and helped me out in that position. And I have to say that's probably why I thrived in that, and I liked it. So we hired a young man that came in, was the chief here for just about 3 years. And he went on to the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office as an undersheriff. Again, they didn't have the process ready to go, and they opened it up, and I said, I'm going to apply for it this time. So I applied for it, and lo and behold, we got the chief spot. And so I've been in this position now St. Paul for just over a year. And it's going really good. We've throughout the last year and some months, we've had some ups and downs, like many agencies across the United States. Retention and recruitment being a big items, but
Yeah.
also the adjustments we've had to make as an agency with our wellness program. What do we need to do for our officers? What do we need to do for recruitment? What do we need to do for retainment? And then on top of it, what we're dealing with out there, the critical incidents. So here I am, and that's kind of in a nutshell how I got here.
I love it. And like I said before, like when you're like, yeah, I did this. Oh, and I got a master's degree in the middle of it. I was like, oof, I need to step up my game a little bit. Um, how important do you think it is, as a chief to have experienced so many different roles and assignments? Do you think that that gave you more of a perspective and empathy for those various roles, and that's helped you in your leadership role today?
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember when I first got hired, and the chief at the time, Tom Locke, one of the first things he had said to me is, shook my hand and he said, "I'm really looking forward to watching you grow." And I say that same thing to everyone that we hire. It sunk in with me and it made me feel really good that the boss, the chief is really looking forward to watching me be a part of this agency and watch me grow. Meaning, I have the opportunity to do more than what I'm coming aboard to do, and that's patrol. And once, 10 years ago, policing was just a different, like, it was different across the board. The training was different. It was very militaristic,
Mhm.
if you will. Do it, you don't get it, you're out. You get it, you get to stay. Now we just can't do that, right? So the things that I've learned, the different positions that I've been in with this agency have just definitely helped me. I think each position that I've had the opportunity to be a part of has humbled me in some way. So here I am now, right, the chief, and um, there's a lot of times where you get angry people that come into City Hall and I want to talk to the chief. You're talking to this person and they're screaming down your throat, and you're just letting them rip into you. And some of the patrol officers are like, "Chief, I can't believe you just were able to just stand there and listen to this person yell at you." And maybe at the beginning of my career, I probably would have responded differently. Like, the finger would have been up in the air. But it's I think it's definitely humbled me across the way. So
Yeah. I love that statement of like, I can't wait to watch you grow. I think that
mm,
one, it's inspiring to have people in your corner that want you to win. And I think it's
yeah.
really important to surround yourself with those people, whether it's organizationally or it's in your own personal life, having a support system and people who genuinely want you to win and to succeed. And
Mhm.
I think when you do start to grow, you start to see the people who maybe don't want that for you. And
Right.
I've had that in my life too. It's like as you start to improve your life or you start to change, maybe some of your habits or your decisions and you want something better for yourself. And this could be even something as simple as like wellness. Maybe you start to eat healthier or you want to drink less. You start to see
Yeah.
the people in your life who are supportive of that and that
Yep.
growth. And then you start to see people who want to keep you at their level and want to drag you down. And so I think it's great, especially as a young officer, to have someone in leadership look at you and say, I'm in your corner. I want you to succeed. I want you to win. And I'm so excited to witness that. And I
Yeah.
also think on the flip to that, as a new officer, someone who's young in this career, saying there are opportunities for me.
Mhm.
Because I think that on a human level, we all want to be better, or at least we want to know that there's a path for
Yeah.
that, improvement in our lives and growth professionally. And so I love that story. And do you think that that has translated into how you lead now? Do you think that like you take that same
1000%.
energy? Yeah, I love that.
1000%. I'm glad you brought that up, Paige, because I truly have kept that with me. And like I said, everybody that we bring aboard, I shake their hand and I say, I'm looking forward to watching you grow here. So it has stuck with me, and we had to change how we do things. I really did like the 10, 14 years ago of that strict training. Um, I certainly, looking back, I certainly wouldn't have became the officer. I don't think that I ended up becoming if it wasn't for that training. But we were built different. We were
Mm,
just built different, I think, then and now. So we've had to adapt. And when you tell someone you're looking forward to watching them grow, it means so many different things, right? And we have had to, I don't want to say cater, but we've definitely had to lighten the aggressiveness of how we do train. And that has been incredibly challenging for our field training officers, for even our veteran officers, who grew up, 10, 15, 20 years ago in this business. There's just so many areas that we have to be more accepting to say, okay, let's do this again. How can we do it? What is it you need in order to be successful?
yeah.
Instead of it's gonna be my way or the highway kind of drive. So yeah, yeah,
I would definitely love to talk about that because I know we've mentioned it a little bit about the difference between um, I wouldn't even just hold it to training and policing internally. I think that there's been a change with public perception and interest in the career as well. I know you said that before it was extremely competitive and there were a ton of applicants and only a few spots. And we know now that there's a hiring challenge and it seems that there aren't enough recruits coming in for the job. How have you seen things change over the years, whether that's with public perception or, organization, like you said, with how things are done?
yeah. That's a great question. I think um, the climate has definitely been uh it's definitely been an impact. It's definitely impacted those that want to come into law enforcement.
Mhm.
Um, but the leadership, um, the even when it comes to recruitment now, I'm sure other agencies across the United States are dealing with this in their own neighboring agencies. We have several agencies in the county of Ramsey, and our neighboring agencies right next door, they're offering $20,000 to lateral officers to come over, $10,000 take home squads. We're a department of 23 officers. Um, we have a very small budget, but I mean, we have what we need. But it's hard for us to compete with that. So you know, when I started to now, we have you had partners back then that didn't consider leaving their agency unless they had 5, 8 years on, and that 5 to 8 year mark, you're thinking, is this where I want to be for the next umpteen years of my career, or do I want to uh, check it out? Well, now it's completely different. You
Yeah.
get you get out of school, you get 1 year on, and we're seeing officers coming into our interviews that have 3 or 4 agencies that they worked for 1 or 2 years. Because they can. It's a market for them right now where, they're coming in and telling us, I need 40 hours of my PTO front loaded. I need this, this, and this, and agencies are doing it. It's tough in that sense. And I'm very good friends with a lot of the chiefs surrounding us. Um, and some of our officers have gone to those neighbor agencies because of some of the packages that they're offering them. Um, and, I'll see them at a Chiefs meeting or whatever, and they'll come up and apologize. And I'm like, hey, listen, don't apologize. Like, it is totally up to that person and whether or not they think it's in their best interest for their best, for their family, for their personal life, whatever the reason may be, for them to have to go to another agency. Anybody that's come here while I've been the chief, and has left, I've always given them support. Like, anything you need, you let me know. I support you going to wherever it is you need to go. If maybe, it's unfortunate that you didn't want to stay here, but what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
But that page, that is just what's happening because of what the market's like for law enforcement officers right now. They truly can, um, you know, 10 years ago, everybody around us wanted a 4-year degree. Now it's, a 2-year degree. We even have programs where you can start, and I'm sure other states have this, but you can start with an agency. They pay for all your schooling. So you're learning their day-to-day operations, get your two-year degree by the agency paying, and then you go on with them after you graduate. So there's that career pathways investment, pathway to career investment. And we don't have the money to do that.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of grants out there, but again, we don't have a grant writer. So we're limited to what it is we can and cannot do. And for us, that's a problem for retention, and recruitment.
Sure.
But right now, Paige, we have 4 people in contingencies. So they're going through their background process, their medical, and once they come on, if they do successfully pass all their contingencies, we'll be fully staffed. So, um,
Nice.
everything goes well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I can tell you just through conversations I've had. So, you guys are not alone in the competitiveness of competing against each other for
Mhm.
not only recruits but laterals. And it is an interesting landscape for sure. And
Absolutely.
it's it is. It's like you're not only competing for new people, but you're competing for the people you already have. And I've heard things of like, neighboring agencies putting up billboards or
Oh,
neighboring
yeah.
agencies putting recruitment trucks, saying like, come
Yeah.
to us, and so it is a really challenging aspect right now for a lot of
Mhm.
agencies across the country. And one of the things I've heard recently is some states aren't requiring a degree at all. And
Mhm.
when they come on, it's kind of like what you said. Because they graduate the academy, they already have, I think, 30 credits that they can then use towards their
Yep.
degree. So there are like different
Yep.
unique out of the box things that are happening. I know that there's some lowering of standards in a way that it's kind of having it they're having to do because of certain laws or state laws,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
what is legal in one state and isn't legal in another. So there's different things going on for sure to try to alleviate that. And
Mhm.
I do think that, and you can maybe attest to this, but, I think that 2020 was a turning point for sure. I think it was happening a little bit before that, but I think that 2020 like really made people hesitant to enter into
Yeah.
this career with some
Absolutely.
success in public perception. So um,
Yeah.
I know you talked a little bit about also needing to adapt your communication style for younger people coming into this career. And there's maybe different expectations and different ways of learning with the younger people. How have you had to adapt your communication and your training styles?
Yeah. Well, one, we had to get together with our field training program officers. And we had to think outside of the box and we had to get them on the same page of what it is we need to do in order to help people succeed. Now there's a line, right, that we can't cross. And we have standards. But that line is when he or she, new officer, is just not getting it
Mm,
and there are safety concerns. Um, we that's not good for us. So we want to adapt, but we want to make sure that when we do adapt, we still have the consideration of making sure that everyone's safe in the training.
mm,
The community, the new officer, the field training officer, and the partners that are on the scene with them folks. So, um, we've had to, I don't want to say hold hands along the way, but we've had to somewhat hold hands, if you will, and give direction in a more clear way. And what I mean by that is, when I was coming through phase one, right? We have four phases. In each phase, roughly, 4 months across the board before the training's done. But each phase, you have different tasks that you're responsible for as the recruit, and what percentage you have to complete those tasks by. So as you go through each phase, you're going to be required to handle more and more of those calls at a higher percentage, right? So um, in our when I was coming through, it was my FTO was 2 months. It was the first, the second day I was behind the wheel driving. And that's just not how we operate today. You don't get behind the wheel until you're, a few weeks in. But I was behind the wheel and running lights and sirens to, uh, shooting calls or whatever calls was happening, medicals. Um, and just thinking, holy cow, what am I doing? I'm
Yeah.
like 3 days in and I'm, racing and rolling here. And then not only that, but then, I'm getting out of the squad and I'm expected to know what to do, straight out of college, right? Straight out of 2 year degree. Um, and if I didn't get it, I was getting my butt chewed. Um, and I remember 2 weeks in, we had a critical incident and my FTO, right when we clocked on, said, get your stuff, get in the squad and get us to this call. There's a shooting. And I'm like, okay, so we go, and of course I'm driving a completely wrong way, and the radio is going, my FTO is screaming down my throat, my lights and sirens are going. Like stress was adrenaline, right? The chemical imbalance, everything just thrown off. Get to the call, and he's like, "All right, what do we do?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." You
Mm,
know, I went home for a week after that, went into bed and cried my eyes out every single night, wondering, asking myself, is this what I want to do?
yeah.
Do you think, Paige, do you think officers today would be able to handle that? Or would just accept the fact that this is how it is? Um, I don't. And we've had officers in training today that, yeah, we go to a critical incident, um, and they come back and they're clearly hurt by what happened, what they saw, what they had to deal with. We take them, sit them down, support them, talk them through it, It's not the yelling down your throat anymore kind of training. It's what can we do to help them understand the reality of this job? And is it really something that they want to continue doing?
Yeah.
So two different approaches, right? And that's just what we've had to do. That's what we do now. We've had to extend some folks, that first and second phase. But lo and behold, some of them are now, a year in, they're rock stars. They're loving being a cop. They're doing a great job at what they're doing. They've taken on some specialty roles, community engagement. Um, they love what they do. And I think, gosh, how many people when I was coming through in my early days, how many people got flushed out that would have been a rock star, could have been a rock star for our agency had we just trained the way we do today.
Hmm.
But we learn, and I reflect on that. I definitely don't forget where I came from, because a lot of that has carried over to the way we lead today. And when I talk about we, myself and the command staff here, we all have a good vision of what it is we need to do to help the patrol team and the admin staff to help us be successful. And I think we have to encompass it all in order to be successful. It can't just be a couple people in the command staff. It can't be just a couple people in admin. Everybody is going to need to get along in some capacity.
Hmm.
Now, it's very challenging to do that in a police agency, because it's inevitable that there's going to be drama somewhere in some area, right? But I think we've done a really good job here at managing it. And when I say manage it, it's every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day we have to manage that. So yeah, I think we do a really good job at keeping an eye on our folks.
Honestly, the thing that came to my mind was it comes back to the idea of watching you grow. And
Mhm.
growth can be messy sometimes. Like
Yeah,
growth is not always this like really fun thing. And
right,
the outcome is, right? Like when you achieve your goals and you accomplish something that was really hard and you get to the other end of it, like that part of it is great. And
yeah,
I think that oftentimes people want to skip over the hard parts or the messy parts, but the messy, hard parts, that's the key to growth, right? It's like how many times did you fall down? How many times did you go home and cry and like question what you're doing to get to the other end where you felt like there was growth. And
right.
I think it's an important reminder that, like, no, like maybe organizationally, in this is across the board, not just for you guys, but just in policing, maybe the way that things were done before weren't the best, but some of them were. Like some things were really,
Mhm.
really good, and some things you're like, man, like if we would have done this better, then maybe we could have saved some people. Maybe we could have extended
Yeah,
their career or their lives. That's the messy part of growth, right? Of like being like, man, like that stuff was really, really hard. And like maybe we didn't do it right. And like we're questioning why we did that in the first place. And how do you get to the other end of it? Excuse me. Excuse me. And then when you come out to where you are now saying, wow, like we've really grown as an organization and
mhm,
as law enforcement in general. And now we're doing things better. And now we're seeing like that outcome of the growth. And so I think
yes,
that you can't skip those parts. I think the only way to learn is to go through challenges and come out the other end stronger, more resilient, more
yeah,
educated. And I do think that the way that you guys are supporting your people through their wellness and trying to encourage them and make sure that they have the things that they need to grow and to thrive is really positive.
awesome.
I think that we'll continue to see that momentum of growth,
Yeah.
as we go forward.
Mhm.
Do you think, because you said this earlier about like, you know, someone down and saying this is the reality of it, and then you having that experience of like seeing the reality and being like, wow, I don't know if I can do this for the rest of my life. Do you think that younger officers fully understand the reality of what they're getting themselves into? And my second question to that is, how do you make sure that they do grasp that reality?
That is a great question. I think it really depends on a number of factors. Their background, their life experience, those type of things. But ultimately, no, no, if you're coming into this and you have not been a cop, uh, you, there is no doubt in my mind, everybody that comes into this position, their life changes.
Mm,
Every single person. Um, I when I have a Chiefs interview with someone that is coming in very green, first time being a cop, I'm very open with them. And I'm let them know that hey, you are gonna see bad things. You're gonna work sporadic schedules. You're gonna work holidays, knowing that they have, a newborn or three kids or they're married or stuff like that. I'm very open with them and let them know, even though, it's just me verbalizing and they're probably thinking, I just want to be a cop, but at the same time, I also reflect on an officer we had shot in the line of duty here during a domestic right before I started as a police reserve. And I remember when I came on, the the work environment here was very, very sad, um, very, very real, um, and reminded me that there is a chance every single day that I come into work, I could die.
mm,
Um, and I make that clear to those folks that are coming on. There is a chance that you're going to come to work every single day. Every day you're going to have to think about this, that you could die. Um, you have to think about it. You have to understand that. And it has to set into your soul that I'm going to go to work knowing that I don't know if I'm going to come home from work.
mm,
Um, because the last thing I want an officer to do when they come in is be complacent. And that's what gets people hurt. So setting that tone for them as the chief, I think, instead of saying, I can't wait to watch you grow, it's a good thing, right?
mm,
But at the same time, setting the tone and being serious with them, they take it differently, as opposed to the interview panelists, where the patrol officers or the detectives. But you have the chief sitting across from you, asking you, are you prepared to see dead people? Are you prepared to see on the other side of the tape? Are you prepared to have people yelling down your throat? Are you prepared to be called every single nasty name in the book? And yet you have to be able to handle yourself, right? Are
mhm.
you prepared for that? Are you prepared for long shifts? Are you prepared for having to be told, "Hmm, 5 minutes before you shift, we're going to have to stay another 4 hours because we just had a shooting"? Are you prepared for that? Because if you're not, you need to ask yourself, is this the job for me? Unfortunately, there's a lot of schools that, put people through criminal justice law enforcement programs that maybe
Mm,
shouldn't, right? But yet they come through and they want to be the cop. I've seen a lot of folks come through and 3 weeks in, they might have saw that first traumatic event, car accident, whatever you have, and find out that wasn't for them. Man, just went through a whole storm of ups and downs, probably through the last 2 years of schooling, managing work, and all these grinds, only to find out 3 weeks in, this is not for me.
yeah.
That's a lot, right? So it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I guess you're not going to know unless you try, kind of thing. But at the same time, we as leaders, when we're bringing these folks aboard, instead of welcoming them with open arms, at the same time, before they come aboard, letting them know what they're really getting into is super important. It's super important.
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking about this the other day, because I think that conceptually, our brains, we can sit here and say, yes, we understand. We understand the reality of things. And then when the reality of things is in front of you and you're seeing that dead body or, that domestic or, whatever it is that you're experiencing, that what impacts you and looks, I think, a lot different than maybe what you had thought in your head. And I'm sure a lot worse than what you ever could imagine. And I did have that question of like, how do you prepare for the worst if you've never experienced anything like that before? But I do agree with you that if you can try to front load that training and try to be as realistic as possible, and have those like hard conversations of, hey, like, it might sound good, or like in your head, you might think XYZ, but here's what it actually is. And trying to infuse that in training, in, a college setting. I know we talked offline a little bit, and that's one of your goals is to, maybe post career, be able to educate people from a college level to really try to grasp what that means. Even though you might not be able to fully until you're in that moment to see it, I think that there are steps that could happen that could help better prepare you.
yeah, it's one thing I took away looking back, when I was going through my bachelor's and my master's degree is there was so many instructors and professors that had years and years of experience in law enforcement, not only in law enforcement, but years of experience within a chain of command. So their perspective, their real perspective of this is what you're going to go through, and these are the things that I went through. Um, I that's the niche I have. I wanted when I if I do go into teaching, that is where I want it to be. I want it to be real. I don't want it to be here's a book, read it, and we're going to take some tests. I think we have to throw in the reality of it. And that's only going to come from someone who's been there.
Mhm.
So because you never know, you might either you're going to get somebody pumped up to even want to move quicker through the process and can't wait to become a cop, or you might touch somebody and say, you know, I really don't think we. Don't get me wrong, Paige. We've had some great recruits here that after, a few weeks of being here, and going through our field training program and just happened to have 3, 4 weeks of nonstop calls that said, this isn't for me. But our field training officers recognize something in them that says, you're going to make a great cop. And we don't, I don't want to say we talk them into saying, but we sit down with them and let them know of all the good things that they're demonstrating that are good, great qualities in good officers. And we've had people say, yep, I'll give it another try and come back and rock it and get through. So, going back to watching you grow, that, that leadership not only goes through our chain of command, but our field training officers as well. So I think it says a lot about our people here and how they care and want people to succeed, right? So yeah,
And I think it all like circles back to wellness too. It's like if you truly want your people to succeed and you're supporting them in their growth, then you also want to make sure that they have a long career where they feel good physically, mentally, and that they are on the front end educated and prepared for the challenges of the job. But then you're
yeah,
creating a supportive, healthy culture that supports their growth. And then after there is an incident, you said, we sit down, we support them, we make sure that they have the things that they need.
Mm.
What is your strategy for creating a healthy work environment? And maybe what are some of the resources that you have found to be successful in supporting that?
Yeah, before I came on as chief, the previous chief had really launched the wellness program here um, into what it is to today. And we have an agency that we utilize. They support us with several other people, and we have access to them 24/7 after critical incidents and even before, if we know what we're going into. We always talk with our people and make sure everybody's in a good headspace before and after. And it might not be that initial time right after a critical incident, right? It might be weeks after.
Mhm.
And our people, mostly the veteran officers who recognize a new person or even, just a partner is off, several weeks after the incident. We do a great job at checking in with them and making sure that they're really good to go, right? Um, but we also we allow our officers because we work 12-hour shifts for a 4 on 4 off kind of schedule. So we allow our officers to work out an hour during their shift. So it gives them an opportunity. We have a CrossFit gym and we have a city gym that the officers have access to, even our admin staff, where they can just really just get out of the uniform and put it down for an hour and go decompress, whether that be walking on the treadmill, going for a walk outside, in the CrossFit gym, or we have a day room. Maybe they just want to chill, um, and sit in a lawn chair or whatever. But it gives them an opportunity to just let the chemical imbalance balance.
Mhm.
And I know that you go to a call, right? And that the adrenaline just goes and your chemical imbalance is rocking. It does take time for that to equal out again. Because now you're gonna go to another call. You're gonna go to another call. And you're gonna so 6 calls later, 7 hours later, you have not had a chance to let your chemicals come down, balance out. Um, and that hour of just saying, "Whew, okay, I gotta just take this stuff off and chill for a second." I think it helps out a lot.
Yeah.
So
I find this really interesting. You said that a lot of times your veteran officers are the ones who are noticing if somebody is off, and they're maybe the ones that kind of flag it or will go up to them and
mm,
say, hey, like, I'm noticing this. Like, what do you need? And
mhm,
I think that there's a lot of conversation about this because I'm always hearing, like, when I talk to people, they're like, well, our older guys are not on board with it. And I've actually found the opposite to be true. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to everything. I don't like to overgeneralize anything. There's going to be some people who are
right, right,
receptive, whether they're veteran or they're brand new. There's, different personalities. But what I have found is there are people who have been in this career a long time, like yourself, who have that perspective of like, hey, like, I know how I felt when I didn't have the resources. I know what
mhm,
that did to me, and I don't want that for the people who are
right,
coming up the ranks now. And so, it's an interesting dynamic because maybe you grew up in an environment where you didn't have resources, you didn't talk about it. It was a like, suck it up, keep going type mentality.
yeah,
But you also know internally what that did to you, and that you needed those
yeah,
resources. And so I have found in the same respect that you just said that a lot of the veteran officers and people who have been around a long time are even more supportive of wellness because they've been through it. And they know that you need resources to get through this career and to have a long and successful career
absolutely,
that you can thrive in.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to um ask because we have we talked a lot about these strategies to educate to communicate, to support. And it was all in the context of, younger officers. And my question for you is, who's taking care of you? Who's taking care of leadership, and maybe what are the resources that you've used, or maybe the various stressors that you now see in an executive level.
Great question. Um, and when I first came on as chief, the previous chief took me over to, we have a Minnesota or a Ramsey County Chiefs Association that I'm a part of. He took me over to the meeting, and introduced me to everybody. Um, and the support right out of the gates was incredible.
Mhm.
Every single chief came over, introduced themselves. I knew many of them already, but everyone came over, everyone exchanged numbers with me, whatever you need. And it wasn't maybe a couple months in of being the chief that we had a mass shooting um, at one of our parks, and I had to lean on a lot of those folks. Um, they all came through. They all came through, and it was 10:30 at night. Every single one of them answered their phone.
Wow.
What do you need, right? Where do you need them? And so, but from the mental health side of things, the Chiefs Association does a really good job at putting together peer support groups, which I'm a part of most recently. Um, and we get to utilize the Chiefs Association resources that are available to us, and there's a lot. So it's really good. I remember when I came on and I was you know meeting all these new chiefs. Um, we had a chiefs training up at one of our military bases in Brainerd, and the first chief that gets out there, Stillwater chief, says, I'm gonna let all of you know right now, you have a ton of resources available to you, but it is very lonely up here. And he couldn't have said it any better. It does get very lonely up here. And what I found out he meant by that was there are times where I just can't say some things to my command staff.
Mhm.
I can't say anything about something, even though I want to tell them, but I want to be transparent with them. I have to reach out to another chief and say, this is what I got. Um, so in the sense of loneliness and that part, yeah. And then, there are times where, I might disagree with a city manager or city council or a community member or staff members or my command staff. Um, and I'll take that home with me, which I hate doing sometimes, but it happens.
Yeah.
Human being. So those times, yeah, you don't always want to talk to somebody. I just kind of want to do my own thing with what it is I need to manage. And that's okay too, right, Paige? Like it's okay to sit back and think about it by yourself and how you want to handle that situation. I don't necessarily always think that I need to reach out, but I like to, because there's a lot of stuff in this position where you do need another voice to tell you to handle it, so you don't handle it incorrectly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that story that you told me about all of them being there in the time that you needed it, like that gave me chills. I think it's so important to remember that you're a team. And I
Mhm.
think that, like, it doesn't have to be exclusive to your organization. Like,
Right.
this profession, you guys are a team, and maybe it's other states, maybe it's your surrounding area, but I think the more that everyone can band together and say,
Yeah.
hey, we got you, I think that that's so powerful. And I think anyone who's listening, it doesn't matter what position you're in, like you have the ability to be a support system for other people, and
Yep.
you are people. And everybody needs resources. And I think
Absolutely.
that we do such a, and I'm guilty of this too, like you do such a good job of taking care of everybody else. And it is very much a, servant mentality, and I totally get that. Um, but you have to kind of have a bird's eye view a little bit and recognize that like you also need support and resources. And like you said, maybe it's not all the time. But in
Right.
the times, like it's important to know that when you're in the thick of it and that when you really need it, someone's got you when you fall or when you need it the most.
Yeah.
So I love that story, and my hope is that everyone across the country is doing that, and if they're not, maybe this is a reminder to like, hey, reach out to the people around
Yeah.
you and just let them know that like you got them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, you're right. It is much broader than it's totally outside of just the people that I talked about. Last fall I went to the IACP, the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Boston.
Yeah.
And when I went out there, it was great training, don't get me wrong, but the networking, and communicating and meeting all these chiefs and command staff from across the nation. I think when I got back and I looked at my phone list, I got 150 new contacts, right?
Yeah.
So, and one of them happened to be Christopher Cook, who wrote the Art of Strategic Communication
Mhm.
book for chiefs. Um, Great guy. He did a presentation out there. But when I got back and I reached out to him, he reached out to me, gave me some advice, and I'm like, this is great. The guy I just met, uh, just being real professional and just shows a good sign of leadership, right? So I do take advantage of those conferences when I get the chance to network because I think that's so important.
Yeah. I have only two more questions. I know I'm kind of running out of time. I always do this when I'm like deep in conversation. I love it. Um, what is your hope for the future with this career that is evolving and changing? What is your hope that happens, whether that's in wellness or training or
Yeah,
resources? Like what if you could wave a magic wand?
I
If
would say, I
anyone's
would
watching the video, he like actually
say,
waved his hand around.
I would say, I really hope, we can get back to respecting each other.
Mm,
Um, because, it's when we respect each other, law enforcement respecting the community they respectfully work for, and the community respecting law enforcement. Not only that, but the criminal justice system, um, doing you know, what should be best for outcome. And I think that is steered another direction as stemming from the climate. But respect. I really hope we can get back to that. And the thing that I can see happening is we're going to be back to 400 applicants for one spot
mm,
because everybody's going to want to be a cop again. And that might be the tie up right now. Because some folks don't want to come into this profession because we just it's a it's a challenging position because of the lack of respect that we get. And I don't want that to sound nasty. I don't want it to sound like I'm being arrogant or anything like that. But it truly does impact the performance.
yeah.
Um, Both from the law enforcement side, the community side, and the criminal justice side. So, yeah, one word, right?
I I hope that too, honestly.
Yeah,
Um, what words of advice would you give to someone who's earlier in their career when it comes to wellness or leadership, maybe something that you wish you would have known or something that's helped you along the way?
sure. For the new folks coming in, um, make sure you have a good support system. I know that's not always the case for everybody, but if you don't, um, get one and reach out to the resources that are available. definitely don't think you can come into this job thinking that your life is not going to change.
Mm.
Um, and that you can do this job all on your own. It'll eat you up. Um, be humble. Um, this job is rewarding in so many ways. And many people, when I ask them when they're coming through interviews, why is it you want to be a cop? The answer really hasn't changed from when I came on. I want to help people. And I want to help people until, we're a year in or 2 years in, and we're sick of people yelling down our throat, and we're sick of going to the domestics, and now you got to be a psychologist, you got to be a therapist, you got to be a mom, a dad to kids and family members you don't never met. You go into people's houses that you don't know, and so all of this stuff really requires you to have an understanding of what it is you're going to get into. And by having a support system, and by that, it might be, folks like you, Paige, folks who have a passion about helping people better their wellness and health. Or it might be, you just having a, somebody that works in law enforcement and ask them, what kind of advice do you give me for working at this agency or this agency? Because it might be two different types of advice because there are two different types of environments.
Right.
So definitely uh, have a good support system when you're coming aboard and getting into this profession. And also, do your research. Really, really get to understand what cops do.
Mhm.
There's so many darn cop shows out there and CSI shows, and it gets people's minds turning like, I could do that. I want to be a detective, but not realizing, well, you got to have 5 years on before you can be a detective, in some agencies. So,
Mhm.
um, but I think every throughout the years, Paige, and where I'm at now, every single position that I've successfully been a part of has humbled me. Um, and now, I'm 48 years old, and I probably have the same humbleness of a 70-year-old. So I don't know, maybe not, but I just seem to have a little bit more patience than I did, 10 years ago. That's for sure.
I definitely think that that comes with age and experience for sure. Like I feel the same
Mhm.
way too. But I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your
Thanks, Paige.
time. I appreciate your wisdom. Thank you for coming on the show with me today. That's all I have for you, but I want to give you the opportunity if we miss anything to kind of take the floor. But again, like I just appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, Paige, I just want to thank you for reaching out to me and connecting. It's a great connection. I love the networking. I'm honored to be a part of your show, and just reading your page. Man, you're doing a great job, and super proud of you.
Thank you.
And thank you for reaching out to so many other chiefs and getting their perspective and hearing what they have to say. I watch other podcasts like yours, and it's great to see folks like you interviewing chiefs. And I get the opportunity as a chief to hear what those chiefs are doing and what they're going through, and some of the things that are I've taken away and been able to apply to my role here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That makes me really happy. I think you can relate to this that sometimes you don't know if what you're doing is benefiting people or if it's good, but you do it because, you care and it always feels really nice to have positive feedback. So I appreciate that so much. And
That
yeah, we'll keep in touch and maybe there'll be a part two
absolutely
someday.
perfect.
All right, thank you.